pretty accurate. The first portion of the flight has gone beautifully. They are in orbit, a half a mile below the point that they had planned for themselves, which is certainly tolerable. Their speed is exactly what they want it to be, 25,560 feet per second. We say 17,500 miles an hour. The next big decision will be, do they head for the moon?
Wade is now 1 hour and 41 minutes into its flight. That presumably is going to take it to the moon if all continues to go as well as it has so far this morning. The Apollo 8 crossed the eastern coast of the United States, South Carolina coast, on the completion of its first revolution and is halfway out towards Bermuda on its second revolution. During this revolution, the decision will be made whether it will go into trans-lunar trajectory or not. In that case, it will fire its engines in an hour to escape from the Earth's gravity and move toward the moon. Let's listen to the communications from Apollo 8 to the Houston Space Center.
2027, over.
Roger, copy 0227.
Apollo 8, Houston, would you go to Pooh and accept, please? We want to send up the state vector.
They are updating information for the Apollo 8 for its trans-lunar injection burn.
Roger, go ahead. We're at Pooh and accept.
And they have been testing the communications channels.
Your TLI plus 4-hour pad when you're ready to copy, and your TLI pad also.
The communications so far seem to be excellent from Apollo 8, and the Apollo 8 astronauts are calm and carrying out their test flights in perfect fashion.
Apollo 8 spacecraft passed behind the moon, out of sight of the Earth, the first residents of the Earth ever to be out of sight of the Earth. They were also totally out of radio contact, since radios won't work from behind the moon. And while they were back there, they had to fire up their engine, reduce their speed precisely to get into orbit around the moon. Well, for a long half hour, nobody here on Earth knew anything. There was no known reason for alarm, but there was some nervousness anyway. Finally, they came out from behind the moon, and here's what they said at the Spacecraft Center in Houston.
We're standing by. We've got it. We've got it. Apollo 8 now in lunar orbit. There's a cheer in this room. This is Apollo Control Houston, switching now to the voice of Jim Lovell.
By 60.5. Good to hear your voice. It had all worked precisely as planned, and at the second it was planned. It was very nearly perfect, an enormous accomplishment for those who planned it and those who did it. Once they were in orbit around the moon, the astronauts began describing the scene out there, 240,000 miles away, just above the surface of the moon, saying it was all gray, no color, looking like plaster of Paris. And then they turned their television camera on the moon for close-ups of its surface.
We should be getting pictures from the spacecraft in just a few moments. We're joined in on the sound side with the mission control in Houston, Texas now, so that we will be ready when it does happen. Still no calls. Wait. We're a minute and a half. We're a minute and a half into the acquisition. The capsule communicator has been advised to pass to the crew when we acquire that all of its systems look good. Frank? Yeah, David. Did you mention, I don't know what you did, that that's the telescope through which we hope, don't promise, but hope to be able to see the spacecraft from the Earth, see from the Earth as it circles the moon. if we
minutes now since we did acquire spacecraft, rather noisy data. But data on the 9th revolution around the moon with an apogee of 63 miles and a perigee of 58.9 miles. Velocity of 5,352 feet per second. We've got a picture here, and we've got a voice to go with it. Bill Anders.
How does the picture look, Houston? Loud and clear. The TV look okay? That's very good. Welcome from the moon, Houston. Thank you.
We're theorizing here at that bright spot in the top left center of your picture is the Earth. It's not very clear.
Taking over the lunar horizon. We're going to follow the track until the terminator, where we will turn the spacecraft and give you a view of the long shadowed terrain at the terminator, which is coming quite well in the TV. Roger.
We don't know whether you can see us from the TV screen, but the moon is nothing but a milky white, completely void. We're changing the cameras to the other window now.
This is Apollo 8 coming to you live from the moon. We've had to switch the TV camera now. We showed you first a view of Earth as we've been watching it for the past 16 hours. Now we're switching so that we can show you the moon that we've been flying over at 60 miles altitude for the last 16 hours. Bill Anders, Jim Lovell, and myself have spent the day before Christmas up here doing experiments, taking pictures, and firing our spacecraft engines to maneuver around. What we'll do now is follow the trail that we've been following all day and take you on through to a lunar sunset. The moon is a different thing to each one of us. I think that each one carries his own impressions of what he's seen today. I know my own impression is that it's a vast, lonely, forbidding type existence or expanse of nothing. It looks rather like clouds and clouds of pumice stone. And it certainly would not appear to be a very inviting place to live or work. Jim, what have you thought most about?
Well, Frank, my thoughts were very similar. The vast loneliness up here of the moon is awe-inspiring, and it makes you realize just what you have back there on Earth. The Earth from here is a grand oasis in the big vastness of space.
Bill, what do you think? I think the thing that impressed me the most were the lunar sunrises and sunsets. These in particular bring out the stark nature of the terrain, and the long shadows really bring out the relief that is here and hard to see in this very bright surface that we're going over right now. You describe that. That's not color, Bill. Describe some of the physical features of what you're showing me.
Apollo 8, Houston, we're not receiving a picture now, over.
looking through the window of the spacecraft, as I'm sure you've already...
What you're seeing as we cross my sea are the craters Castor and Gilbert. And what we've noticed especially that you cannot see from the Earth are the small, bright impact craters that dominate the lunar surface.
The moon from a low altitude through the window of the spacecraft. And as Frank Foreman said, milky white.
The horizon here is very, very dark. The sky is pitch black and the Earth, or the moon rather, is quite light. And the contrast between the sky and the moon is a vivid dark line. Coming into view of the camera now are some interesting old double ring craters. Some interesting features that are quite common in the Mare region and have been filled by some material, same consistency of the Mare and same color. Here are 3 or 4 of these interesting features. Further on the horizon you see the mountains coming up now are heavily impacted with numerous craters whose central peaks you can see in many of the larger ones. Actually, I think the best way to describe this area is a vastness of black and white. Absolutely no color. The sky up here is also a rather foreboding expanse of blackness with no stars visible when we're flying over the Earth, over the moon in daylight. You can see by the numerous craters that this planet has been bombarded through the eons